good morning and welcome to Life in Style. It's Relationships Wednesday. You know how we do it. We begin with Monday, the first segment, and then retake. Then Crystal Okusa comes in and winds up with Style My Wife and Style My Hubby. Today we're going to talk about something that is deeply said to be true, and we're going to just try to interrogate whether that is really true or not. It is the crisis of masculinity. We will be joined with the ladies. They're already on set right now for retake. Hi, ladies.
Hi.
All right. We'll be joined by them later on, but I've got three gentlemen sitting right here with me on the panel for Monday, and we want to talk about the crisis of masculinity. Is there a crisis, or is it just a coinage? Is it something that men, is it just something that we talk about to excuse men from being real men? Did they coin it themselves? Is it a thought of the ladies? And I've got three gentlemen over here. I want them to introduce themselves, beginning from my father's left.
Thank you so much, Chris. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Sunstar Peterson. By calling, I am an apostle to the Church of Jesus Christ, but I'm also an entrepreneur. Come from a background of arts and entertainment, and so our businesses tend to center around those areas, and I'm also an author.
All right.
And I'm just happy to be here this morning.
You have written a book called The Destiny of the Black Race.
Yes. The Destiny of the Black Race was actually self-published by us in the early 90s.
Okay.
And since I've been staying here in Africa for the past 6 years, I really felt it was time to revise the book and to bring it again from a different worldview, a different perspective. As you know, we have a saying in the Caribbean, that's where I'm from originally, born in Barbados. We have a saying in the Caribbean and basically says, see me, come live with me is two different things. So it's one thing to talk about African issues from a Western perspective, but being here has been a totally different experience. And so we've rewritten, not rewritten, but revised the book to make sure we accommodated that properly.
All right. And then in the middle.
Thank you, Chris. My name is Apostle Charles Donga. I'm a pastor in Nairobi, and also I also am the founder of Retooling Apostolic Leadership Ministry, dealing with the leadership in the church and even in the entrepreneur. And I'm glad to be here. Thank you, sir.
All right. Last but not least, closest to me.
Thank you very much. Yeah, Othniel Mobili is my name. I have a passion for Kenya and Africa, really, and I'm involved a lot in the prayer movement. But also, I do a lot, both in the marketplace, in the public service, and in church in terms of prayer mobilization, really to see the destiny of Kenya and Africa secured and the purposes of God established in our generation. And so I believe that we are living in a season of visitation for this continent especially. It's Africa's time and it's Kenya's time. And this is our time as men to arise. Yeah.
Great. Now, we're having very soon a conference for men that is dubbed Lions Uncaged, from a book that I did for men over years of ministry. And both Charles and Othniel are speakers over there, but we're glad to have Dr. Peterson with us here today. Is there a crisis in masculinity? Is there a crisis with men? Is there a crisis of masculinity? And probably we need to first of all define masculinity.
Okay. Well, first of all, I think, yeah, definitely there's a crisis, but I believe that the crisis is not so much just a crisis of masculinity. I think it's a crisis of society.
Okay.
And we also ourselves, we do a program called Let's Make Man, which basically, you know, goes back and focuses on what God intended. And as the late Dr. Miles Monroe would always say, you know, when you don't understand the purpose for a thing, there's abuse.
Right.
Abuse in the English language comes from two root words, ab and use, abnormal use. When you don't know the purpose for a thing, then there's always abuse. And I think somewhere along the line, well, I mean, we could go as far back as the Garden of Eden to realize where the whole reality of manhood from the perspective of the one who created man and understands the purpose of man better than anybody else. We go back to the garden when man began to be disconnected from God, from his creator, and thus from the purpose for why he was created, that's where the breakdown began. But of course, you know, it has eroded, and now that we are alive in the 21st century, we are having a whole other secularist, humanistic force that is very powerful because they own the media, they own, and when I'm talking about media, I'm not talking necessarily about Kenyan media, I'm talking about the internationalist media that have an agenda to push. And so they are inserting into the conversation the whole issues of everything from homosexuality to transgenderism right now, and the skillful, artful way by which they put across these new concepts of what a human being is. You know, the lines have become so blurred. So yes, there is a definite crisis of masculinity, but I believe that God has some definite answers as well to restoring that image that he intended.
All right, but I got to ask still, when, what is masculinity? Because different people will define that in different ways. I was looking at, somebody posted something on social media the other day. It was a video, actually. And this gentleman was preaching in a church and said, if you're a man, never call a mechanic to fix your car. You need to be able to fix the car. He said, when there is something to be done, never call a plumber. So he defined masculinity by the things that you would do, that, you know, why would you call a plumber when you're a man, you're over there? Why would you call a mechanic, you can fix your car? And I'd just like to know, Apostle Ndonga, is that how we define masculinity?
I doubt that the man is what he is based on what he is able to do.
All right.
I believe that the crisis we are talking about is actually, like my friend has said, is caused by the society, or it's a society failure. Because the man in his position, he, over the time, the man was moved by the expectations from the society, from what the man is supposed to be, and then the society created the image of the man they want to host in their midst. And so you find that in most cases that you are defined not based on what you are, but what is expected of you.
Yes. Okay.
And so this actually has gone even to the family setups, even to the community and the corporate. You are defined by what they want you to produce, but not what you are.
But how are we supposed to define ourselves? I'm still getting back there.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a very interesting question, really. Maybe I go back to one of the first books I read on men, by a certain gentleman, Ed Cole, in those days. And
he was one of my favorites.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and basically, one of the first statements I remember that stuck out when I read his book was there's a difference between a man and a male.
Right.
You know.
Yes.
Basically defining the biological aspect and the responsibility aspect. You know. And in essence, then, when you're thinking about a man, the issue of responsibility comes in.
Okay.
And what type of responsibility are you talking about in terms of actualized manhood? Because then man has to be more or less like a prophet, a priest, someone who is a protector, a provider, a promoter, you know, someone who's able to literally affect their environment positively and give leadership, influence their people or their surroundings positively and move them to the next dimension. Now that, of course, brings in several aspects, which the modern man is not empowered or equipped, more or less, to actually rise up to that particular level. Okay. And so I could easily summarize it, because there's a scripture that comes to mind. This is Job when he was really devastated. In chapter 14, he says something like, the days of man are few and full of lots of trouble. Right. You know, and this is a place where our current man is in. And I believe that we need to circumscribe some solutions and answer that question and say, well, there's hope for a tree. You know, so, I mean, when it's cut down, something good is coming. Yeah.
But, you know, we will, we say Dr. Peterson has said that, and Apostle Charles has said that there is what society has created. And you mentioned that society has changed. The expectations have shifted. So what are the original expectations of a man? How do I know that I am in that which originally I was intended to do? You talked about purpose. How do I know that I am in the original plan, and how do I know that I have shifted? Because if the crisis is caused by a shift, then to solve the crisis, I need to find what is the original. How do I know what's the original?
Well, I believe I could come at that question from several different perspectives, but however, I think that if we take this conversation slightly deeper, what God originally intended when he created man, and the scriptures are clear, man was created in God's image. That means that by metaphor, the same way that the moon reflects the rays of the sun, we were supposed to have been reflecting the life of God. In fact, when Jesus walked on the planet in John chapter 1, and in verse 12, he says, to as many as received him, he came to his own, the Jews, they rejected him. But those that did receive him, whether Jews or outside of Israel, whoever receives Christ, and by the way, the scriptures do not define man as merely a male. It takes male and female to make man. That term man in Genesis should be spelled capital M, capital A, capital N, because it's a corporate term. Right. It's not just a male term. So when he says, as many as received him, to them he gave power to become sons of God, that simply means that whether male or female, those who are in Christ, and Paul will tell you clearly that in Christ there's no male or female. So the ideal of man is even higher than male and female.
All right.
We are here to demonstrate what it is to be a part of the God class. That's it.
But what happens to the male? What happens to the male? Because when it comes to responsibilities and roles, they're very different. You know, I'm looking at, I looked at a study that was done 2014. That's not too old either, but 2014, a report by the mental health charity, one called CALM, in the UK, they found that men were struggling to cope with the pressures and expectations of their personal and professional lives. And they say that 13% of the women will feel the pressure to be the sole breadwinner, but 79% of the male will feel the pressure. The suicide rate would be higher with the male than with the female. So even as we would say that it takes both genders to form the man, surely it looks like there's more pressure on one side.
Correct. I think we need to also look deep into this matter, because the man is very uncomfortable when you shift him from the location where he is positioned to be. Like when we talked about the society, you find there is a lot of shifting of the man, because as you talk about expectation, there's where the man is expected and he knows that this is my position.
What are some of the expectations that we put on men? What's expected
one of the
of a man?
expectations is that the man should be the leader.
Oh, right.
He should be he should take the responsibility of instruction or showing the way.
Okay.
And the man cannot show the way where he doesn't know where the way is heading.
All right.
And so when you shift the man from what he knows and put him into another place, then you confuse the whole system.
Who is responsible? Who is responsible for shifting him? Has he shifted himself?
Yes, actually.
Or is it the society?
No, I think in this presentation, I think as we began, one of the things that came out is that we're looking at a scenario where society has changed.
Yes.
If we could really hit the nail on the head, there's a loss of father figures giving specific directions to the upcoming man.
Exactly.
Because then you need to actually know who you are from someone who's living that role and taking the right responsibility.
Okay.
And so what society has done is that it has shifted the ground. You know, so suddenly men are appearing and they are finding a rearranged ground, and they don't know where to actually stand, because really there's a dimension of what's the purpose of this man. I think it's one of the things that's coming up. What role does he play, and how does he take his place of responsibility? And if he cannot find his place, if it cannot be defined, then he will define it based on his understanding of what he needs to do, because he doesn't have a role model.
All right. Yeah. Where do we draw the line between what is responsibility and what is pressure? Because generally, my thinking is, if you said the man is a leader, and Othniel shared about Ed Cole, whom I also partook of very much, you know, and if you talk about a man being a provider, a protector, and all of that, the expectation then would remain the same. Is it that the modern man is not up to the task, so he feels the pressure, or is it really that the responsibilities have shifted? Dr. Peterson.
You know, I think I would be remiss if we went too deep into this conversation without bringing in a very important and should be obvious factor. Man has an enemy, and that enemy is not the government. That enemy is spiritual. From the garden, again, God laid out his plan. It was clear, and if we look at the command that was given to man, the male, in the garden, the female wasn't even created yet when God said to Adam, be not just be fruitful and multiply. In fact, he said that to both, but he had said to him his responsibility was to tend and to make the garden aesthetically beautiful. And by the way, the garden speaks of potential. The garden, in our minds, when we hear the term garden, we could think of anything from the little garden in front of our house to a nice garden at a house as big as State House, or some of the wonderful English gardens. But no matter how we slice it, we don't even come close to what the garden was. I don't have time to go into this, but the garden was all of East Africa. It was all of what we call today the Middle East, all the way down into South Yemen. All of that whole area can be defined by where the rivers flow to water the garden. So the garden is actually speaking about man's potential. And then God said to the male, he said, guard it and protect it and make it aesthetically beautiful.
Aren't those still the essential responsibilities of the modern man? Protect, provide, take care of. Why are we feeling under pressure now over something that has been over generations? That's just what I'm trying to find out. Is it that we are not equipped? Is it that we were not prepared? Is it, as we say, the society has placed this? Has it really shifted our responsibilities, or, as Othniel says, we grew up not knowing the responsibilities, so we feel the pressure?
Can I just quickly finish this thought? I won't drag it out too much. But again, I do believe that if we don't factor in this unseen enemy, whose job it is to work to destroy the image of God in man, there is a spiritual factor to this. Yes, all of the issues that we've talked about, so far as society is concerned, they are real. But there is also a spiritual factor where man is actually being undermined. And if you destroy the male, then you are destroying the foundation of the family. And that's the satanic agenda, to destroy family.
I want to pick up something with you right there, because I want us to be absolutely balanced. Where do we draw the line between spiritual warfare and just laziness in man, where we can blame everybody else and just not take responsibility? Why are certain things prevalent? It's you've written a book on Black Destiny, but statistics will show you certain things are more prevalent among the black race than other people. Is there something that we are not doing, and then we blame the enemy?
I think when we come to that, when it is left for the man to just on the basic, to provide and to house and to actually meet the needs of the society, we miss a certain very powerful point that my brother is talking about. In the Garden of Eden, in the first aspect, the man was not actually to concern himself so much on what to be eaten until when the man fell, is when God told him that now you can till the ground and you'll be eating the sweat. And so in the original plan of God, God had provided everything for Adam and Eve. And so we can actually trace the role of a man from the original plan and not the second. But the society has actually alleged the performance on the second.
I want to put you to task, with that thought. Because if man remained in the state that he was in before the fall, so that his thinking, his mentality was he did not need to provide and all of that.
Let me explain myself on that.
Because I'm running short of time.
I understand. Let me explain. I'm not saying that the man should run away from, because automatically when you are in your position, there are things that you don't need to be reminded that they are in your docket. Because the man is an institution. It's not just a walking being. The man is an institution. Like any other institution can be held by a certain person. And in every institution, there is things that are attached to that, responsibilities and expectations.
Let me, I always talk on behalf of my viewers. Okay. So here I am. I'm somebody who doesn't even go to church. So I don't even understand all this depth you people are talking about the Garden of Eden. And here I am, a man. I'm being told every day, be a man. What does that mean to me? The pressures that I feel.
Let me get back to thermodynamics physics classroom.
Okay.
And state a certain law that we learned. It's called the law of entropy. Everything degenerates to its lowest state. Anything left on its own will degenerate. Okay. It's a law that's prevalent on the whole earth. So anything you leave today, it's going to get worse by the minute. Okay. If you don't put any energy, if you don't work on it, it's going to depreciate. Okay. And so basically we are looking at a situation whereby, from what they've just alluded to, yes, there is original sin. Now, over time, we have not, so to speak, worked on the man, granted him enough opportunities and afforded him the right kind of energy, so to speak, pumped it up, And so we're living in a time where, number one, most men grow up with absentee fathers. Okay. And absentee means several things. Whether the man was in the house, but he was doing other stuff when he was still in the house, or he was always a drunk, or he actually just impregnated this lady and disappeared from the scene. There are different types of absentee fathers. And so the men are growing up, they don't have someone to actually pump in some energy into them. But at the same time, we have a more empowered woman. Okay. Because they have more time to receive expression. They've got more time to learn stuff. I think I was in a meeting just this weekend. A lady was graduating, and she made something, said a quarter of the master's class was men, 3/4 were ladies. And for me, if it was a one-off thing, then that's a different thing. But every other place I've gone nowadays, there are more ladies who are actually pursuing careers, pursuing development and all that. The ground has literally shifted. Okay. There's people who are more empowered, others are disempowered, if you can use the term. And that's where we're saying men are like under siege. And so the pressure is there, but really you are under pressure, but what are you going to produce if there's nothing put in you? And if there's something wrong in you, then you produce the wrong stuff.
And this is the pressure. When you talk about being able to produce the wrong stuff, I'm going to stick around the study that was done. Okay. And it said men had a higher chance of engaging in wrong behavior than the women.
Okay. Correct.
But then I want to find out, this pressure, is it internal, or is it because the woman is catching up with him or sometimes overtaking him, and now he does not know how to lead the lady? Because, Pastor Charles, you talked about a man is supposed to be a leader. But this is a case where this woman, initially there was, let's empower the woman. But I think now she's empowering herself. She's not waiting for anybody to empower her. There's an inner drive. They go out, they'll go to classes, they'll try to do business. Nobody's telling them this is what we're handing over to you. They've woken up. Is it that the man was caught flat-footed and now he has internal pressure and he is cracking and he says it's society?
I think we're also dealing with what we call the principle of cause and effect, because man and mankind is like a tree. There's a root somewhere, and now today we can say we're living in the branches of a society. The fact is that there was a time when men, by sheer reason of being males, thought it was their own responsibility not just to produce or provide or to thrive, but to also dominate women.
Okay.
And so after a certain place, then there's this guilt inducement thing that happens. Now society feels the need that they must empower the women to the point where people are beginning to be concerned, is it off balance? So the pressures that are being put on men in society in a place like Kenya are driving many to alcoholism, to a lot of stuff like that. And I don't want to talk about this just from a negative standpoint, because we do have men out here who are actually thriving role models of manhood in every kind of a way.
Okay, we're going to pause this conversation right now. We get back on Retake when we are joined by the ladies. Remember to write with the hashtag KTN Life and Style and join the conversation. You could follow us on our social media platforms. That's KTN Life_Style. That's both for Twitter and Instagram. KTN Life and Style on Facebook, 22840. Text message number. Join the conversation. The crisis of masculinity. KTN Life and Style is the hashtag. We take a short break and then get back with Retake. Don't go anywhere.
Some say love, it is a river that drowns the tender reed. Some say love, it is a razor that leaves your soul to bleed. Some say love, it is a hunger, an endless aching need. I say love, it is a flower, and you, it's only seed. It's the heart afraid of breaking that never learns to dance. It's the dream afraid of waking that never takes the chance. For the
If I should stay, I would only be in your way. So I'll go, but I know I'll think of you every step of the way. And I will always love you. Will always love you. You, my darling, you. Bittersweet memories, that is all I'm taking with me. So goodbye, please don't cry. We both know I'm not what you need. Treat you kind, and I hope you have all you dreamed of, and I wish you joy and happiness, but above all this I wish you love. Darling, I love you. Ooh, I'll always love you.
As a girl child, I want to grow to become better than what I saw my mom, my great grandmother do.
I am still that guy that believes that chivalry is not dead, and it's on my watch, as far as I'm concerned, if I'm the only man standing, it's not going to die.